If you think about it, shifters are pretty underrated in a sim racer's arsenal. In a race, especially on road courses, you're going to shift hundreds of times over the course of a race. So one of the things you want to consider is having a solid shifter by your side. In most race cars, you'll see one of three kinds of transmissions. You'll see either the H-pattern shifter, which is more commonly used in older cars as well as stock cars. You will see a sequential shifter, which is a stick where you will pull back to shift up or push forward to shift down. Or you will see the flappy paddle gearbox, which is controlled by paddles behind a steering wheel. Now, 2 out of the 3 main sim hardware manufacturers manufacture shifters that can alternate between the first and second, which is the H pattern and sequential. That is the Thrustmaster TH8 series shifter, and in front of me we have the Fanatec Clubsport Shifter SQ. So back in October, I was sent this shifter to review and put through its paces, and after 5 months and about maybe 50 hours or so, I feel like I have enough information to provide a solid review. So I hope you enjoy. So one of the first things you'll notice about this shifter is its sheer size. This is one of the largest shifters that you can get on the market. This is about 15 inches tall and 5 pounds. So you could literally do some decent bicep curls with this. But that is not necessarily the best thing. Where I have had this mounted on my GT Omega Pro cockpit, and it mounts via 4 holes on the bottom of the shifter. Now, that is no problem for the actual mounting with hardware onto the shifter. However, it really does put strain on the cockpit, and you will feel it move around and you'll have the cockpit creak because of just this sheer weight as well as the force required to shift. So with that being said, this also has some significant clunk to it. This is a very responsive shifter. You have a lot of feel through it, and it also can take a lot of force to shift. Fortunately, there is this hole on the side, which you are able to use an Allen key that is supplied with the shifter, and you can put it in the hole and you will tighten it to make it a stronger throw, or you can loosen it and have a lighter throw. So you could have that option. Another thing I wanted to mention is that one thing that was slightly frustrating with this shifter is that while the screw does adjust the up and down tension, the side to side basically stays the same. So one thing I did commonly find is that I would find myself accidentally shifting from second into fifth unless I was quite deliberate with my shifts. Now, living in America, I have my shifter on the right hand side, so I would cup my hand around and basically guide it from second to third. However, I could imagine a left-handed shifter shifting from second, cupping it, accidentally shift into fifth. So that is one thing worth mentioning that I did encounter in some of my time testing, but I would say it is quickly alleviated by getting used to this shifter. And now I'd like to talk a little bit about the sequential, where that is one of the hallmarks of this shifter. One of the things I love about this shifter is it switches from H to sequential with the flip of a switch. And then sequential. Simple as that. However, I am not a fan of how far that throw is. If you look, that's pretty far throw. And in a lot of GT cars, you're gonna have a short throw on a sequential shifter. This, I would say, is close to 6 inches throw. So you're gonna have to really move your arm to shift gears, which some people might like. Some people might like that in a classic car, but when it comes to modern race cars, you're not gonna have that much of a throw. So with that, you're going to have that sort of struggle, but as time passes, you can get acclimated with it. And that is one of the things where I found this easy to adapt to, but when I moved back to my Thrustmaster shifter, it felt a lot quicker, and that was one thing I really did like with that. Now, getting onto the H pattern side, this has 8 gears. It has reverse, up, left, then first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and then you push down right up to get into 7th. For some drivers, that will seem familiar because this shifter is modeled after some of the Porsche 911 models, where they have the 7th gear. So that is something that is striving for the realism. However, I would have liked to see more customizability. Not all cars have reverse at top left. Some of them have them bottom right or even bottom left, and that would have been something cool to see that was an option. Now, with Thrustmaster shifters, you get the option of getting an aftermarket shifter plate or even 3D printing, which I've seen. With this, you're pretty much locked in with what you got. So that is pretty okay, but I would have liked to see Fanatec go that extra mile for the customizability. Another thing I wanted to mention is that as this is right now, you are not going to want to hard mount this onto a desk. And the reason for that is because this shifter is so tall, if you had it mounted on a desk and you have your wheel here, your shifter is going to be up here, so you'd be reaching up. Now, what Fanatec does offer is their Clubsport table clamp, but it is worth noting that is about an extra $30, so that is an extra fee to take into consideration. Speaking of price, this also doesn't come at the cheapest of price points. While Thrustmaster's offering will tip the scale at about $140, you're going to be looking at $200 for the Clubsport Shifter v1.5, and that's before looking into the Clubsport table mount if needed. This shifter will plug in directly to Fanatec wheels, but natively it will not work as a standalone device. You will have to get the Clubsport adapter, which will convert the RJ12 connection in the back to a USB connection. Now, for the $200 to $230 price, would I recommend this shifter? Even with all the flaws, I'm inclined to say yes. This is a very solid shifter. The gripes that I do mention are ones that are just easily able to be adapted to. With the shifter, when I'm driving, I almost never miss a shift with it. The gate feels very solid in the shifter. It really does a solid job. Now, if you are for a tabletop racer or something of that sort, I might say you want to get the table clamp, but that is a solid investment for this. And now on to my pros and cons. Let's start off with the pros. My first pro is this is an incredibly solid shifter. It feels like it was built to last and it will run for a long time. My second pro is the instantaneous switch from H pattern to sequential. The third pro is the adjustable tension in the shifting pattern. This, in my opinion, does a far superior job compared to Thrustmaster's offering in adjusting the tension of the shifts. My fourth pro is a variety of mounting options. Even though you might have to shell out an extra $30 for the Clubsport table mount, that thing is rock solid and it will do a great job of keeping your shifter steady on a table. If you do have the hardware to mount it on, it is very simple to mount with the 4 holes on the bottom. My last pro is that it will plug directly into Fanatec wheels and that will save you a USB port. And now on to the cons. My first con is that there is limited customizability apart from the shift knobs and the shifter tension. Other comparable shifters have the option of either elongating or shortening the shift knob as well as modification of the gate on the shifter. This shifter does not offer those options, so compared to that, it is a little less customizable. My second con is you need to purchase an optional adapter to use this as a standalone device. So if you're looking to use this as a standalone device, you will need the Clubsport adapter, which will add another 10% or so to the price of the shifter. My third con is that this shifter is incredibly bulky and it can be difficult to mount on different solutions. While I did say in my pros that it is pretty simple to mount and there are a variety of options, that does not take away from the fact that this is a very bulky and somewhat cumbersome device to use. My last con is the extremely long shifter throw. This has the longest shifter throw of any device I've ever used, and that's not necessarily a good thing. The shifter has at least 6 inches of travel, which might be a turnoff for some racers. So wrapping things up, I will give the Fanatec Clubsport Shifter v1.5 a 7.8 out of 10. What I really love about this device is the simplicity of it. It, in a flip of a switch, goes from H pattern to sequential and back. The problem is that in a trade-off, there's a limited customizability. It is a rather bulky and cumbersome device, but what it really does well is you can just mount it, shift, and you can drive with a significant amount of confidence. If you're looking for a solution where you are wanting more customizability, if you're wanting to have maybe a 4-speed transmission or just theme your hardware, I would say take a look at the Thrustmaster TH8 RS. But if you're looking for the simple solution, and if you have a Fanatec wheel, I would highly recommend the Fanatec Clubsport Shifter v1.5. So these are my thoughts on the Fanatec Clubsport Shifter. Now, I'd love to hear yours. Do you agree with my points, or do you think I'm full of crap? Let us know in the comments. Also, if you like this video, please hit the like and subscribe buttons down below and help keep us on track. And check out simracingpaddock.com and join our forums and be part of the community. For the Sim Racing Paddock, I'm William Marsh, and you have a great rest of your day.